Good morning and a happy Thursday. Welcome to today's episode of Morning Wealth. Three things that we will talk about. Apple is 2 trillion, earnings roundup, and J&J will buy Momenta. US stocks edged lower on Wednesday, a day after the S&P 500 set its record close since February after Federal Reserve officials highlighted the uncertainties facing the economy. The broad stock market index fell by about 0.4%. The Dow was also down by 0.3%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq was down by 0.6%. Stocks wavered between small gains and losses for much of Wednesday's session. They lost momentum after Fed released their minutes of its July meeting that showed officials grappled with how to spur growth amid low interest rates and the rising virus cases. They said that the US needed greater support recovering from the coronavirus pandemic, but were hazy about when they should deploy their tools. Fed officials expressed limited enthusiasm for the yield curve control, a policy that typically involves targeting rates and pledging to buy long-term bonds. Two countries that are doing that is Japan and Australia in the recent past. Australia in the recent past, Japan has been doing it for a while now, almost 2 years. While some members floated the possibility of more accommodation, no mention was made of changing the size and composition of the asset purchases. So next up in the central bank news, we will have the ECB minutes from its July meeting when officials left its rates as well as the asset purchases unchanged. But again, we'll be looking out for the tone and the discussion points rather than anything major on the policy changes. So on the back of the minutes, Treasury yields rose after policymakers panned yield curve control. The greenback advanced after a 5-day rout, gaining against all its G10 peers. Gold dropped and Asian equity futures are poised to open in the red. Now remember, major benchmarks in China and Hong Kong slipped in yesterday's trading as trade tensions between the US and China continued to ratchet up. The State Department urged US university endowments to divest from China stocks on Tuesday, escalating a war of words against China. So on the back of that, Shanghai Composite was down 1.2%. That's the biggest decline in more than 3 weeks. And Hong Kong was down about 0.7%. Apple touched 2 trillion. The iPhone maker's market value reached a milestone during the day amid a stock surge this year, making it the first US company to do so and the most valuable company in the world. Shares have more than doubled since March, driven by strong earnings, a rally in tech shares, and optimism over its coming 5G iPhone. On the earnings roundup, we look at Nvidia and then the retail earnings. Nvidia gave a strong sales forecast on rising demand for its chips from the data center operators. Revenue will be about 4.4 billion in the third quarter, topping the 3.96 billion estimate. Data center chip sales came in at about 1.75 billion last period, up 167% from a year ago. Earlier, analog devices fourth quarter guidance for profit and revenue had beat estimates also. On the retail side, the good earnings continue. Target posted its fastest ever sales growth, and EBITDA, revenue and profit beat consensus. Shares were up 13%. Now, an interesting opinion that I read in Bloomberg was unforeseen shifts in consumer behavior helped the Target's results, but the retailer had been laying the groundwork for the rise in e-commerce and curbside pickup for years, enabling it to meet the explosion in the trend. It can now fortify and even increase its market share, making it even more untouchable, is an opinion that I read, which was interesting. Lowe's comparable sales and profit also topped estimates, though it withdrew its 2020 guidance. Victoria's Secret brand owner L Brands sales dropped 20% to 2.32 billion, but it still outdid consensus, helped by Bath and Body Works online orders. Coming up today would be Alibaba's quarterly sales growth, which may show it's fully recovered from China's lockdown. Margins will be hit by virus-triggered growth spurt in supermarket and grocery business, however, but we should be expecting a strong sales growth today. J&J will buy Momenta Pharmaceuticals for about 6.5 billion in cash. That's the largest pharma takeover this year. At 52.50 a share, the deal represents a premium of more than 70% to Momenta's closing price on Tuesday. Autoimmune diseases have been an area of increasing interest for big drug makers, with Sanofi agreeing earlier this week to buy Principal Biopharma. Momenta shares rose 69%. On economic data that we'll be looking out for today, China's one-year loan prime rate for August would be released. It'll probably stay at 3.85, and the 5-year LPR is also expected to hold at about 4.65. The PBOC's go slow approach suggests that authorities may be satisfied with the pace of the economic recovery so far, is what an analyst had written. Also, we'll have the jobless claims numbers. Bloomberg is expecting the jobless claims for the week ending August 15th to come in at about 850k, down from 963k in the previous week. The consensus is projecting for about 920k. That's the update. Stay safe and healthy, everyone, and speak to you tomorrow.